I'm going to present to you the 7 things you need to know about mass value consumers so that you can properly orient your menu to give them maximum value, making them feel better about their selections and overall restaurant experience, and much more willing to pay your new premium prices. Throughout this video series, I've been going on and on about this mass value consumer, giving little tidbits here and there about what's important to them. Mass value consumers are the patrons that you serve in your restaurant. They are your bread and butter customers. In fact, chances are very good that you yourself are a mass value consumer. You can test that in a minute. In order to render the maximum amount of value to mass value consumers, to put them in your camp, so to speak, I'm going to go over the 7 characteristics I've researched that identify and indicate that you're dealing with a mass value consumer. They are your customers after all, so we may as well understand them as best we can, right? That's how we serve them to the max. And they reward our service, our understanding of them, our helping to make their restaurant experience more pleasant and less stressful by their willingness to pay the premium price for our menu selections and tip well. Actually, tipping well is kind of separate because for the most part, the tip is wholly separate from the cost of the selection, for the most part. Tipping well is purely voluntary. It's something we hope they do, but the prices on the menu are what they are. So I'm going to focus squarely on the menu and the mass value consumer. Before we begin, if you haven't seen the big 7 elements of a profit purpose menu, now would be a good time to watch it. What I'm going to cover here ties directly to the big 7 elements. To get the most out of this video, you need to see the big 7 elements of a profit purpose menu. If you want to go now, the link is in the description. So if you're still here, you're ready to go, and so am I. So let me present to you the 7 attributes of mass value consumers. Let's go. Number 1, mass value consumers are not poor and they are not rich or wealthy. From what I read, the consumer economic dividing line goes pretty much like this. 10% are poor, which means it doesn't matter how much stuff costs, this is all they can afford and this is all they're going to buy. Period, end of story. They are price shoppers in the purest sense of the words. The budget does not allow them to go any further than that. They are poor. On the opposite end, 20% are wealthy, or what you might call rich. For them, price is no object. You might have heard that line in a movie every now and then or something. I want one. Price is no object. That line typifies the top 20%. They literally can afford almost everything they want to buy. They are the nation's wealthy. So just by the process of elimination, the great 70% in between must be mass value consumers. Now, of the numerous books, papers, and articles I've read, they've been referred to as mass affluent consumers, premium purchase consumers, and a few other titles. Anyway, these are our customers. These are your customers. These are your patrons, your diners. It's very important that we understand this because it will help us shape and formulate our menu to provide the maximum amount of value so we can earn a better profit. Now, how about you? It's probably a very strong likelihood that you yourself are a mass value consumer. Want to test it? Okay, let's test it real quick. If you're at home, look around your entire home. See the bedrooms and closets in your mind. If you're in the kitchen, look around. Look on the counters. Look in the cabinets. Look at the appliances. Look at the walls throughout the home. What's hanging there? Imagine your closets, the clothes, the shoes. Look at your car. Okay, now for each of those items, which was the absolute cheapest you could find of that product line? I mean the bottom selection, the bottom price item. Which one of those items in your entire home is the absolute cheapest you could find, the cheapest thing available? I bet the answer is probably none, nothing. Now, which of those items is the most expensive available? As you were doing all your shopping for all those different things that I've mentioned, or in your driveway, how many of those items was the most expensive thing in that category? Yep, that's the most expensive one available on the market, and that's the one I want. Order it. Is there any item that you purchase that's the most expensive in its given category? Again, probably none, or very few. So you are a mass value consumer, just like your patrons, and just like me. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're in a very large group, the largest group. 70% of consumers are in this group. Mass value consumers are what makes the economy go. A free market economy cannot thrive with just poor people, nor can it maintain long-term health with just wealthy people buying up big-ticket items all the time. It takes mass value consumers to build a strong and successful free market economy. That's what we do. Now, if you want to run a real quick test on your patrons to see if they're actually mass value consumers, I'll give you a real quick one. Take a look at their smartphone. If it's an iPhone or a Droid, they are mass value consumers. Besides Apple and Samsung, there are 12 other prominent smartphone manufacturers in the world. Prominent, meaning they have appreciable sales. And beyond that, there are many more that are not so prominent. Did you know that? So out of all the selections your patron could have made for a smartphone, they chose the top 2 most expensive. So that's your quick test of whether you're dealing with a mass value consumer or not. Your restaurant is loaded with them every single day. Now, no offense to poor people, but they cannot afford to come to your establishment, and they know it. They will not be there. And the rich or wealthy will not be there either. They don't have the desire to come to your establishment, and that's fine. So now that we know who we are not serving, let's talk more about who it is we are serving. Which brings us to number 2. Mass value consumers are always low on time. You can hear it. You can hear it in their language. You can hear it in my language. You might be able to hear it in your own language. I don't have enough time to do that. I don't have time for that. How much time is this going to take? What's taking so long? When is this going to be finished? Mass value consumers are time poor, and they'll tell you all about it if you're willing to listen. Our lives are busy. Our days are busy. We always have more things on the schedule than hours in the day. That's just the nature of being mass value consumers. So this timed out element automatically bespeaks a certain level of stress. And as builders of menus, it's our duty, it's our job to help minimize some of that stress, because they'll be very grateful to us for having done that for them. We'll get into the menu specifics in just a moment, but just know for now, mass value consumers are always short on time. Number 3, mass value consumers will spend more than the budget for the promise of greater value. We'll have an idea of what we want to spend, but we will spend more than that if we believe we're going to get more value out of the exchange. I read a stat once that said although 90% of Disney theme park visitors spend more than what they originally budgeted, the parks nevertheless have a greater than 75% return rate. Think about that. They went, they spent over budget, and they came back. That is classic mass value consumer behavior. They will blow the budget if there's a promise of increased value. That's our hallmark, and we'll do it in restaurants just the same as theme parks. Now you can cast whatever aspersions you want onto people who spend outside their budget, and you may have a point. A lot of not so good things occur when people spend outside their budget. Crushing debt is one of them. But it's not our job to advise or regulate people's spending habits or insert our morality into it. That's their business. Our task here is to get a better understanding of our customer, our client, our patron. The important thing for us is to have the value of our overall restaurant experience match the value our customer expects to receive, and offered at a reasonable price. That's why descriptions of menu items are so important. Having well thought out descriptions of entrees communicate value. They elevate value, increase the value. So when the mass value consumer sees that the entree price is a little higher than what they originally wanted to spend today, if the description is attractive and alluring enough, they'll be willing to pay it because the promise of value is there. Number 4, mass value consumers are impatient shoppers. Now this dovetails slightly with number 2 about being low on time, but here's the difference. Number 2, low on time, is in the very general sense. Generally speaking, we mass value consumers are low on time. But where number 4 differs from number 2 is that number 4 is actually at the point of contact, at the point of sale. Here's what I mean. I'm a mass value consumer, so I'll frame this around me. When I sit down and look at a menu, I don't expect to have to hunt for the price of the selections. I've read some menu gurus teaching restaurateurs that the thing to do is to obscure the pricing slightly. Make it less noticeable, almost blend in with the text of the description. The thought process being that it almost forces a patron to fully read the description so they understand the value and then have to dig a little bit to get the price. I do not subscribe to that way of thinking. That's a menu designed for pleasing the restaurateur, not the client. I'm the client. I'm the patron. I'm the paying customer. I'm the mass value consumer who's low on time, low on patience. And I'm not going to go at a menu like it's an eye chart looking for what's important to me, which is price. And that brings up another very important point, a very important thing to know about mass value consumers, and that's this. Whereas for the poor, price is the only object, and for the rich and wealthy, price is no object, for mass value consumers, reasonable price is no object. If the price is reasonable, if we believe the price is on par with the value being promised, we will pay that price. I will pay that price. I will pay a reasonable price for this entree with that description. So reasonable price is no object for the mass value consumer. And that's why I think the prices need to be clearly noticeable for people who don't have a lot of time but are willing to pay a reasonable price. Obscured pricing is a net stressor for someone like me who's time poor, having to hunt for the price. It's annoying, quite frankly. You don't want to annoy mass value consumers. They have enough annoyances that exist in the normal day without the menu being added to it. I'm not saying put the price in gigantic numbers, no, but I am saying make the price the same font size, just bold. Make it bold, not bigger. That helps us out as mass value consumers, as impatient shoppers. As a patron, you're helping me when you do that. Number 5, mass value consumers want to choose, not pick. We will never come out and tell you this, but it's something that we know innately about ourselves. Picking is like the shell game. I don't know which shell has the nut underneath it, so I'm just going to pick one. There's nothing pleasurable about picking. It's a gamble, and what's at stake is my money. To help out mass value consumers, to give them value, you have to help make them choosers instead of pickers. Now, what is a chooser? A chooser is an individual who has information about what it is they're considering buying. In this case, the information comes in the form of a description, what we've already talked about. It also comes in the form of the marquee offering, a selection on the menu that's identified by either the chef or the owner. It may even be identified as the establishment's signature dish. These are big helpers to aid mass value consumers in the choosing process. Another helper is social proof. We are incredibly social animals, mass value consumers. We want to know what everyone else is doing, what everyone else thinks is good. That's why social media is so popular today. It keeps people in touch with what everyone else is doing. So in the case of the menu, it's good to sit down, open it up, and see right away the most popular selection of the house. It's like a social media post with 1,000 likes. That information is very important for someone who has no experience in that establishment. So descriptions, marquee offerings, signature dishes, and social proof all help to turn mass value consumers from pickers into choosers. It alleviates the stress of making the quote-unquote wrong choice. People are very sensitive about the perception that they've made the wrong choice, and having little helpers on the menu alleviates that stress. Actually, they're big helpers. Number 6, as a corollary to number 5, mass value consumers overwhelmingly select the product in the middle. I don't care if it's department stores or movie theaters or restaurants. The data shows when mass value consumers are confronted with a choice between good, better, best or basic premium luxury, the middle selection is chosen up to 81% of the time. The medium popcorn gets chosen over the little thimble-sized container on one end and the humongous janitor in a drum container on the other. Similarly, the medium drink is chosen far more often than the Dixie Cup Small and the giant Super Big Gulp Large. Even clothing irons, the middle-priced premium iron is the overwhelming choice over the little dinky El Cheapo Wilma Flintstone iron and the NASA super nuclear-powered 4000 featured luxury iron. That's why it's called Magic Middle. It's like magic how mass value consumers are drawn to the middle selection. Mass value consumers grew up hearing the phrase, "You get what you pay for." No one looks forward to finding out later that they should have paid more earlier. You get what you pay for is the single line that guided mass value consumers to paying the premium price for premium products and services, and it automatically positioned the lower priced products in the mind of the mass value consumer as inferior and low quality, whether it was true or not. And as for the higher end selection, our wallets and purses help talk us out of that choice. It's out of range mostly. The same is true on the menu. If there is a small, medium, large, good, better, best, the mass value consumer will more than likely choose the one in the middle. If the numbers are done right, there's a lot of profit to be made in the middle selection. The mass value consumers will meet you in the middle. That's where they want to be. We're practically programmed for it. And we don't pick the middle selection, we choose it. Opportunities for increased profits with a properly formatted good, better, best selection is practically a sitting duck. They're yours for the taking. So along with descriptions, signature dishes, and social proof, the availability of a good, better, best on the menu all help to convert stressed out mass value consumers into what they want to be in your restaurant. Choosers guided by perceived value, and not pickers with very little to guide them. And number 7, mass value consumers will make shopping and buying decisions based solely on the opinions of people they trust. This is not on the menu per se, but it's definitely part of our understanding of mass value consumers. When two people sit down in a restaurant and one of them has never been there before but the other has been there frequently, what is the first question the new person will ask their fellow diner? Right. So what's good here? What's good on the menu? Now that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to order it, but it does mean that they want to take advantage of a valuable knowledge base that's available to them in the form of the person who has been to this restaurant and has enjoyed the experience, or else they wouldn't be back. And they want to use that knowledge as a guide to help them make their decision. It's a win-win for the new person because when the established patron tells them what it is they like, they're going to put some description around it and all that and give their opinion of it. The new person will listen and will either reject it and decide it's not something they want, or they'll decide they want to try it. Either way, the new person wins. They either choose quote-unquote what's good based on what they just heard, or they've successfully eliminated a selection from their consideration. Their selection options become less, which in this case is a net positive. This is a fine point, but it's important to get this because, as I've stated in previous videos, according to Nielsen, of the top 3 sources of information that consumers use to make their buying decisions, number 1 is word of mouth, number 2, opinions of strangers, and number 3 is business advertisements. In this case, number 1, word of mouth, is that trusted individual telling them, yes, this is good, or no, you should pass on that. Word of mouth, number 1. Number 2 is the opinions of total strangers. Now, aren't dishes identified as most popular, marquee offering, signature selection, or chef's special essentially just opinions of total strangers? Well, yes, unless you know the owner or the chef personally. Yes, they are. And Nielsen's number 3, business advertisements, are essentially the descriptions, images, magic middle, and even the presentation of the menu itself to some degree. So we have successfully locked down the top 3 influencers of mass value consumers' decisions to buy, and we built them into our menu. I'm telling you, a properly formatted menu is such a breath of fresh air to the mass value consumer. You are practically giving them a magic carpet ride to their best selection. Your menu did that for them. Now, if all the other things in your establishment are in alignment, ambiance, atmosphere, pleasant staff, clean restroom, and stuff like that, you have become a mass value consumer oasis, and they will gladly pay your premium prices for the experience. A profit purpose menu is custom made to fit the dining needs of the mass value consumer. They're low on times that are looking for shortcuts, and your menu is specifically designed to provide them with maximum value in the form of many shortcuts, allowing them to make the best possible choice from the selections you provide. A profit purpose menu is a beautiful thing for a mass value consumer. And if you got your pricing right, you will be handsomely rewarded for providing all this value by removing so much stress and guesswork from their decision-making process. So that's the wrap-up of the mass value consumer. That's what you need to know about the patrons you serve. As I say all the time, yes, I am a menu profit consultant, but first and foremost, I am a patron. I am a diner. I am your customer. When I come in and sit down, I want every good thing that comes along with that. And I don't want to open up a menu that doesn't assist me, doesn't serve me, doesn't add value by helping me choose. I want the value of somebody else doing all the heavy lifting so I can sit, relax, and enjoy a satisfying meal. And having a value-driven, profit-purpose menu is part of that heavy lifting. It takes some of the weight of the selection process off my shoulders and makes my choices easier, and I will pay your premium price cheerfully, plus a good tip. I'll leave you with this quote. In my long and winding road on the study of value and price, one of the watershed quotes I read came from a book called Price Strategy by one of the greatest, most sought-after marketing minds in the world, Dan Kennedy. The quote goes, "In their minds, most business owners and salespeople tightly link price and product. The consumer, however, is very willing to break this link given sufficient motivation." And that right there, in my opinion, encapsulates the menu price-value relationship. That sufficient motivation to give you more money is the value you provide for me over and above the meal. The goal here for MSG to go is not to help you sell more food, although that is a good thing. The better thing is to sell food for more. That's the best thing, and you do that by increasing the value of the menu. That's it for this segment of MSG to go. Like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notification. Check out the other channels. Links in the description box. See you next time.